You're looking at a greenhouse that shouldn't work. 6 feet down in the ground, it's still growing greens. No heater running. No propane bill. The whole thing is a hole in the ground with a roof of glazing tilted at the sun. Every passive solar building you've ever heard of insulates its thermal mass from the earth around it. This one does the opposite. It uses the earth itself as the mass. That's backwards. It's also correct. A commercial 4-season greenhouse kit is priced to include a frame, glazing, heating, and a foundation crew. A Walipini replaces almost all of that with a shovel and geometry. You're not buying warmth. You're excavating your way down to where the ground already keeps it for you. By the end of this video, you'll understand why depth matters more than insulation, how to angle glazing, and how to keep a hole in the ground from becoming a pond, a mudslide, or a code violation. Most people who try to extend their growing season do one of two things, and both fail for the same underlying reason. They fight the air instead of using the ground. The commercial route is a heated greenhouse, glass or poly walls standing in open air, losing heat to wind on every surface, all night, all winter. You're paying to reheat the same volume of air over and over. The naive DIY route is a cold frame or hoop house with extra plastic sheeting. The first hard freeze wins. Soil a few feet down stays far more stable in temperature than the air above it. It doesn't spike with the afternoon sun, and it doesn't crash overnight. Building down into that layer is the entire trick. Start at the bottom. You excavate a pit, oriented so its long axis runs east-west. The walls of that pit are retained, some combination of treated wood, block, or packed earthen wall, holding back the surrounding soil so it doesn't slump into your growing space. Above the pit, angled glazing spans from the low north wall up to a higher south-facing edge, so the roof itself is the only part of the building exposed to open air. Below the growing beds, a subsoil drainage layer and a route for water to leave the pit, because a below-grade structure with nowhere for water to go stops being a greenhouse and becomes a cistern. At the walls, sealed electrical runs bring in whatever lighting, fans, or sensors you're adding, rated for the wet and damp conditions of a structure that lives partly underground. One-sentence version. You dig down to stable ground temperature, cap the hole with correctly angled glazing, and you manage the water. The one principle the entire build lives or dies by: soil a few feet below the surface stops responding to daily temperature swings and starts tracking the seasonal average instead. Think of it like a swimming pool versus a puddle. The puddle boils in the sun and freezes solid overnight. The pool changes temperature by fractions of a degree over the same day. That's why depth beats insulation here. An above-ground greenhouse fights the sky all night. A Walipini borrows the ground's memory of summer and rides it through winter. The glazing's job isn't to keep heat in like a blanket. Its job is to let winter sun in at the lowest possible angle. Stable earth plus low-angle winter sun equals a growing space that doesn't need a furnace. Retaining wall material, the one spec that matters is that it's rated or treated for permanent, wet, below-grade ground contact. Look for glazing with a solar heat gain coefficient above 0.60 and a U factor at or below 0.35. Skip anything marketed as low emissivity or low E for this roof. Drainage components, a perforated subsoil drain pipe, and if your site needs mechanical help, a sump pump, electrical, wet location rated cable, sealed conduit fittings, and a humidity-based controller for any fan you install. Depth. There's no single magic number. Dig down far enough that you're below the layer of ground still swinging with the weather overhead, and stay below your local frost line. For maximum average winter solar collection on a fixed, non-tracking surface, the target tilt angle from horizontal is your latitude plus 15 degrees. Pause. If you want the glazing perfectly perpendicular to the sun at solar noon on the winter solstice, your latitude plus 23.44 degrees. Pause. Run both formulas for a site at 40 degrees north latitude, 55 degrees, just over 63 degrees. Most builders land somewhere between those two numbers. Pause. Equator-facing glazing area should run between 10 and 25% of your total floor area. Pause. Roughly 9 to 14 square feet of exposed interior mass for every square foot of equator-facing glazing, and that mass gets insulated from the exterior. The Walipini breaks that last rule on purpose. The earth below your frost line is already more thermally stable than any wall you could build. Pause. Phase 1, site evaluation before anything is dug. Test your soil, check your groundwater depth, and confirm your frost line. If a heavy rain has recently soaked the site, wait for it to dry. Soil that rolls into a rope between your hands when wet is too saturated to safely excavate. Phase 2, excavate and retain, in that order. Dig the pit oriented east-west, then get the retaining walls in before you move on to anything else. An open, unretained pit in anything but bone dry Stable soil is a collapse risk every single day it sits open. Phase 3. Drainage before glazing. Install your subsoil drain and any sump system while the pit is still fully open and accessible. This is also where you route and seal any electrical conduit through the walls, before they're buried behind growing beds. Phase 4. Glazing goes on last, not first. Frame and install the angled roof only once the walls and drainage are proven. Dry fit it, walk away for a heavy rain, and confirm nothing pools. A leak you catch before the glazing is on is an afternoon fix. A leak you catch after is a full teardown. Phase 5. Mechanical and electrical. Wire in your fan, lighting, and any sensors last once the structure is proven dry. The two moments where a mistake gets expensive: retaining walls installed before you've confirmed the soil is stable, and glazing sealed permanently before you've stress-tested drainage. Failure 1. The bathtub effect. Symptom: your Walipini floods after every significant rain caused the pit was dug without adequate subsoil drainage. Failure 2. The wall slump. Symptom: retaining walls bowing inward, cracking, or leaning cause walls built without accounting for the lateral pressure of saturated soil. Failure 3. The summer roast. Symptom: the same design that kept the greenhouse warm all winter cooks everything inside it once summer arrives. Find out whether your jurisdiction requires a permit and expect that it will. Plans stamped by a registered design professional for the structural elements. Setbacks can range anywhere from a few feet to over 100, entirely dependent on your local code. So check your local code office before you finalize your dig site. Any wiring below grade or in direct earth contact is classified as a wet location. You need cable rated for wet, damp, and direct burial use, run through sealed wet location rated conduit. Every receptacle needs ground fault circuit interrupter protection, GFCI. Every fan or motor needs a proper equipment grounding conductor, and its disconnect switch has to be within sight of the equipment. Never route groundwater or stormwater from a sump into a sanitary sewer line. That's a plumbing code violation in addition to a real backflow risk. Route it to an approved storm drain. This video is educational and not professional electrical, plumbing, or structural advice. Have your plan checked by a licensed professional and your local code office before you build. Material costs for a Walipini shift too much by region, wall material, and glazing choice. To quote you one number here: what's consistent is the comparison. You're replacing a heated structure's ongoing energy bill with a one-time excavation. Educational only. Verify against your local code. Build it once, understand it forever. Subscribe if you want the rest of your homestead explained the same way.